Imagine a plant so deeply woven into human history that it shaped ancient rituals, revolutionized medicine, and even inspired a tribe to rename themselves after it. Its remarkable 12,000-year journey, from shamanic burials to political agendas, reveals a surprising truth about our past. Archaeologists in the deserts of western China uncovered a 27,000-year-old coffin, revealing the remains of a blue-eyed man, approximately 45 years old. He was buried with a harp, a set of horse bridles, and remarkably, almost 0.9 kilograms of cannabis that had remained green for 27 millennia. This tomb belonged to a shaman, and the cannabis was clearly intended as a parting gift, ensuring his journey to the afterlife was well supplied. But this shaman was far from the first to utilize this extraordinary plant. Its story truly begins some 12,000 years ago. Somewhere in East Asia, humans were just beginning to master farming. Among the very first plants they identified as cultivable, seeing its immense potential, was cannabis. Imagine being an ancient farmer and discovering a single plant that could be transformed into rope, woven into clothing, consumed for sustenance, pressed into oil, and used as medicine. This wasn't merely a crop, it was the ancient equivalent of finding a Swiss Army knife growing directly from the earth. One of the earliest documented references to cannabis appears in an ancient Chinese text called the Pen-ts'ao, widely regarded as one of the world's first medical handbooks. Traditionally attributed to the legendary Emperor Shen Nung, this book recommended cannabis for a wide range of ailments, from joint pain to malaria. From China, cannabis began its journey along the Silk Road. Merchants, in addition to silk and spices, seemingly transported this plant. One significant trade route snaked through the Pamir Mountains in Central Asia, where the earliest direct evidence of cannabis smoking was discovered. High in these mountains, at the Jerzankal Cemetery, archaeologists explored 8 ancient tombs dating back to around 500 BCE. Within these burials, they uncovered wooden braziers containing charred stones, clearly used to burn cannabis. This wasn't just any wild growth, the cannabis found here was notably potent, far stronger than local wild varieties, indicating a deliberate choice for its powerful effects. The ritual involved heating stones, placing cannabis on top, and collectively inhaling the smoke during funerary rites. Essentially, they were hotboxing funerals 2,500 years ago. Around the same period, the Greek historian Herodotus journeyed through Central Asia, encountering the Scythians, a formidable nomadic tribe. Renowned as legendary warriors who rode horses and wielded bows, they were also evidently quite enthusiastic about their smoking rituals. Herodotus observed them erecting small tents, placing cannabis onto red-hot stones inside, and inhaling the resulting fumes. He meticulously documented this practice, writing, "It smolders and sends forth such fumes that no Greek vapor bath could surpass it." The Scythians delighted. One might even detect a hint of jealousy in his account. For a long time, historians dismissed his descriptions as exaggerations. However, in 1947, Soviet archaeologist Sergei Rudenko excavated frozen tombs in Siberia, sealed in permafrost for over 2 millennia. Inside, he discovered tent frames, heated stones, and cannabis seeds, precisely as Herodotus had described, confirming the historian's accuracy. Then, in 2013, another Scythian tomb unearthed in the Caucasus Mountains yielded a trove of solid gold cups, weighing 3.2 kilograms. Analysis of the residue within these opulent vessels revealed traces of both cannabis and opium. These ancient warriors were mixing psychoactive substances from golden chalices 2,400 years ago. Just 7 years later, something even more astonishing emerged at Tel Arad in Israel. Researchers investigating altars from an ancient Kingdom of Judah shrine, dating back some 2,700 years, made a fascinating discovery. While one altar contained frankincense, a standard offering, the other held cannabis. Intriguingly, it had been mixed with animal dung to ensure a slow, controlled burn, allowing the smoke to be properly released. This detail indicates that whoever prepared it possessed profound knowledge of its use. And it wasn't just these ancient cultures, virtually every society that encountered this plant found a reason to integrate it into their lives. This is because the human body was, in a sense, already wired for it. We naturally produce a molecule called anandamide, named after the Sanskrit word for bliss. Cannabis, by remarkable coincidence, produces chemicals that fit into the exact same receptor sites, acting like a spare key to a lock your body already possessed. This biological compatibility helps explain why, halfway across the world in India, cannabis was not merely used, but revered. India has been utilizing cannabis longer than almost any other civilization. Their oldest sacred text, the Atharva Veda, lists cannabis as one of 5 sacred plants. Lord Shiva, one of the most prominent deities in Hinduism, is revered as the Lord of Bhang, a traditional drink made from cannabis leaves and milk. The legend states that after Shiva swallowed a poison that threatened to destroy the world, it was Bhang that restored his calm. People still prepare this same drink during festivals like Holi and Shivaratri, nearly 3,000 years later. But India wasn't the end of the story. This plant continued its global journey. In China, around 200 CE, a physician named Hua mixed cannabis with wine, administered it to his patients, and performed complex surgeries while they remained entirely insensible to pain, 1,800 years before the advent of modern anesthesia. However, being ahead of your time has often proven dangerous. Hua Tuo was eventually summoned by Cao Cao, one of the most powerful warlords in Chinese history, who suffered from severe headaches that only Hua Tuo could alleviate. But Hua Tuo longed to return home, to practice medicine and treat ordinary people, rather than serve as a personal physician to a warlord. Cao Cao perceived this desire as an insult. He had Hua Tuo arrested, imprisoned, and subsequently executed. In his final days, Hua Tuo attempted to pass his invaluable medical writings to a prison guard, but the guard, consumed by fear, refused to accept them. So, Hua Tuo tragically burned everything himself. His formula for anesthesia died with him, and no one has successfully recreated it since. And then there's a story that almost defies belief. In the Congo, a traditionally warlike tribe discovered cannabis and underwent an unexpected transformation. They ceased their fighting, abandoned their killing, and reorganized their entire society around the plant. They renamed themselves the Bena Riamba, the Sons of Hemp, and transformed their territory into a place called Lubuku, which translates to friendship. Their greeting became Moyo, a single word that simultaneously meant hemp and life, because to them, there was no distinction. By the time Europeans began colonizing the Americas, cannabis had already served as a foundational crop in Europe for centuries. Ships relied on it, its fibers were essential for making rope, rigging, and sails. The entire age of exploration was, in part, literally held together by hemp fiber, which is the strong, fibrous stalk of the cannabis plant. Therefore, when settlers arrived in the New World, bringing hemp cultivation with them was not a cultural statement. It was a purely practical necessity, much like bringing wheat. It spread rapidly through the colonies, but a problem soon arose: tobacco proved more profitable, and farmers consistently chose it over hemp. The government repeatedly urged them to plant hemp, but few wanted to cultivate a less lucrative crop. The Virginia Assembly eventually ceased its polite requests and passed a law making hemp cultivation mandatory. Farmers were legally required to grow it, not merely encouraged, underscoring its essential role. For the next 2 centuries, cannabis remained an unremarkable part of American life. However, everything changed in 1930 with the appointment of Harry Anslinger as head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, a position he held for 32 years. Anslinger systematically linked cannabis to Black Americans, Mexicans, and Filipinos, falsely claiming it caused minorities to forget their place. He also harbored a strong disdain for jazz music, labeling it satanic, and actively pursued its musicians. He notably targeted Billie Holiday, not for drug use, but for performing "Strange Fruit," a protest song about lynching that unsettled powerful figures. Anslinger intentionally rebranded cannabis as marijuana, because the word sounded foreign, understanding that fear-mongering was central to his agenda. He meticulously maintained a folder of fabricated police reports, dubbed the Gore Files, which falsely connected cannabis to violence and insanity. When he consulted dozens of doctors, most concluded that cannabis was not dangerous. He disregarded their findings, choosing to amplify the single opinion that aligned with his prejudices. In 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was passed, followed in 1970 by Nixon's decision to classify it as a Schedule I substance, placing it in the same category as heroin. A plant cultivated by humans since before the dawn of writing was now legally designated as one of the most dangerous substances on Earth. Years later, Nixon's own domestic policy advisor, John Ehrlichman, offered a stark revelation in an interview that laid bare the true context of these policies. He stated, "The Nixon campaign in 1968, and the Nixon White House after that, had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. This isn't speculation, it's a direct quote from a man instrumental in shaping that policy. Yet, in 1988, the DEA's own administrative law judge, Francis Young, after 2 years of meticulously reviewing all available medical evidence, concluded that cannabis should not be classified alongside heroin. He formally recommended its removal from Schedule I. The DEA, however, rejected his recommendation, maintaining its classification precisely where it was. Cannabis has been an integral part of human existence for approximately 12,000 years. Its period of illegality spans roughly 90 years, less than 1% of its documented history. For virtually all of recorded time, this plant was simply there. People made rope from its fibers in the morning and used it in funerary rites by evening. A tribe even reorganized its entire society around it, adopting a greeting that simultaneously meant hemp and life. And that ancient shaman in the desert, with his harp and 0.9 kilograms of cannabis, had no knowledge of drug schedules or political agendas. He simply understood that the plant possessed a value worth preserving, and those who cherished him ensured he would never be without it.